Hey guys, welcome back to another video. What I want to hit today is something I think a lot of people are going to be dealing with this, and I've seen this a lot in comments on some of the Facebook forums, which I'll tell you, if you're really stressed out and things are really a little rough, you might want to take a break from some of those because they can be very triggering and depressing. I know people don't like it when I use the word triggering, but for the people who've been through this, you understand what that actually means. So this is especially true with these stimulus checks that are going out. And a lot of people, if you're behind on child support or you're in arrears, they're getting intercepted and you're either not getting anything or you're getting it reduced. They're taking out whatever the difference is. And you can feel like, it's like holy crap, I'm already down and out. I'm already being kicked in the head. And you feel like every time you turn around, you're getting nailed again. I can remember these. I had those times in the past where it seemed like every time I would get ahead, some new little wrinkle would come in, and man, every time I do this, FedEx comes by. That's so weird. Anyways, that's crazy. Anyways, I remember when that would happen, and it would seem like you couldn't just get ahead. If you can, I mean, for people who are going through that right now, and it's a reality, just it is what it is. Try not to dwell on it too much because all it does is it sends you down this pit of hell. It makes you more and more angry and frustrated and irritated, and those are all valid feelings. I mean, you are going through something that's really tough and it's unfair. But at the end of the day, those emotions don't really help you. They just kind of keep you more irritated and unable to stay focused on what's really important. Now, before I jump into my thought on what's really important, one thing I do want to say is if you're in a situation where how am I trying to say this? I'll talk about it with arrears. Do everything in your power to get current. I remember when I was going through this, when it was the $800 in arrears or 900, they brutalized the Department of Child Support Services in California for my county brutalized me. That $900 they charged like over $2,000 for. I did get when I finally got caught up, meaning I get paid every other week. So the system looks at it that let's say you owe $1,000 a month. Well, if you get paid every other week, then what you do is you take 1,000 times 12, divide it by 26, and that's how much they're going to pull out. But the system looks at it that you still owe that $1,000 a month. So for 2 months out of the year, you're going to catch up. You'll pay an extra amount, and all the other times you're going to be running in a deficit or in arrears. And that's what was happening in my situation. So whenever they were taking out the arrears, whenever they finally said, hey, you're $900 in the hole, we're going to take out more. I'm like, cool. They're going to take out this extra money. It'll be done in like 2 months and it'll be great. But because I was right at the beginning of that cycle of not having enough in the account already, they were just using that to get me current. So whenever they took out that extra $1,000, I was like, cool, I'm done. In reality, it hadn't caught up. So they kept taking extra money out until that extra paycheck came in and cleared everything out. And then the following year, when I did my taxes, I had a few $100s, like a couple $100s that I was, behind on, and they intercepted my tax return and they took that money. The problem is no one tells you this stuff. So you end up finding it out whenever you're like, hey, I need my tax return money. Where is it? And it's not there, or it's delayed, or they mail it to you because they don't direct deposit it anymore. It's tough because not a lot of people know all the information of what you're looking for and what you need to do. I mean, that's really tough. And I mean, I wish somebody would have been able to say, look, here's the deal. This is what you need to do. This is why you need to do it. And what I ultimately ended up doing is I went in and I calculated out. I'm like, okay, what is my maximum arrears? And I just paid extra so that there's always a positive balance instead of a negative balance. And those things are, it's irritating to have to do that. However, it's more irritating when you get caught in the machine and you get ground up to a pulp and you didn't even know what was coming. I've seen so many people who look at this and are like, oh, it'll be fair. Oh, if they do arrears, I'll get to go to court and they'll hear my side of the story and it'll be fair. It's not. It's absolutely not fair. Just so you guys so you know, the Department of Child Support Services in most states can generate their own court orders. So they don't even have to. Like when I went through and they determined I was in arrears, they just automatically started taking more money. There was no hearing. There was no court order. There was a court order, but it was just automatically stamped, signed, sent to my work, and extra money was pulled out. My point is it's critically important. If you can, I get when you can't, but if you can, stay on top of it. There were decisions that I made along the way that I could have modified my approach, so to speak, and it would have been ultimately easier on me. And it's not fair, right? You're going to feel like your ex is getting away with everything, and it's going to probably, more than likely, if you're early in this, make you angry. And like I mentioned before, rightfully so. I'm not saying that you don't have any right to feel that way. You absolutely do. But you got to process that anger and get it out of your system because it is destructive. It is cancerous in your own mind, and it will send you down a rabbit hole that is not a good place to be. If you're in the situation and you're in the midst of this right now, and like I was just saying, feel the emotions, but don't dwell on it, right? And don't see. I have such a hard time saying this because I'm in such a different place now. 9 years post all of this stuff, this stuff doesn't bother me. It's like if they, one, I'm current, right? So I've made the decisions to set myself up. So, they're not going to intercept that. They're not going to intercept my tax returns. They're not going to try to cancel my driver's license again, like they did a few years back. They tried to anyways, for $200 in arrears. It was like, are you serious, people? It's just, it's like, I don't surf, but to me it seems like that analogy, right? It's like you got to get on the wave and ride the wave or get out in front of it. Otherwise it'll mow you down. And if you are in the midst of this and it's happening to you and you're feeling that, then it's really important to, like I said, feel it, get angry quickly, and then just take a deep breath and regain your composure and say, okay, how do I move forward? And that's kind of the approach that I've been taking for a few years now, to where it's like, okay, whatever they throw at me, I'll get angry for a moment, and then it's like, okay, how do I adjust? How do I have to get through this to get to the next point? Fortunately, in my situation now, I'm kind of on the downward stretch. I got one kid left on the system, and 4 more years, 3 more years, whatever the heck it is, whatever the time frame is, that family court stuff will be done. So they will not have the ability to screw with me automatically. I'll still have alimony that I'll have to pay until she gets married or passes away, but at least that's not an automatic thing. My understanding, and I could be wrong, is that if something happened with that and I lost my job and I wasn't able to pay her alimony, she's going to have to literally drag me back to court and deal with it that way. It's not going to be one of those things where it's automatic. My understanding is as soon as the last, and I could be wrong, my understanding is as the last kid is done, the family court or the Department of Child Support Services closes the case and says, okay, we're done. Alimony doesn't count. They don't track it that way. So my understanding is I'll have to pay it directly, all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure, right? And that does go back to my point I was making earlier, is so much of this is unknown, and you're sitting there trying to live your life. You're sitting there trying to struggle with what you're doing. You got the system throwing little rocks at you, and then they'll change the rules, or it feels like they're changing the rules on you at a moment's notice. I know this all sounds kind of depressing, but my point is this. There's a fixed time for this. Now, if we get caught up in the machine, it will grind us up, and that timeline will extend out. What I mean by that is, let's say like in my situation, I allowed my arrears to get so much that I couldn't pay it. Well, when the kids drop off, they're still going to come after that. I'm going to still be stuck in that machine because there's money owed. I've known people who've gotten caught up in that, where they said, screw it, I'm not paying, or they quit their jobs, and they basically were kind of like, F you, you're not going to do this to me. The problem is it makes it worse longer. What you want to do is you want to look at the goal, say, okay, if you're looking 12 years down the line, and I know that seems like a lot, because I'll tell you, when this started for me, it was a 12-year cycle. And I'm like, oh my God, 12 years? My life isn't destroyed for 12 years? I'm not even going to be able to start saving for retirement. I mean, all this catastrophic thinking. I'm not even going to be able to start doing anything until I'm, 53, 54? It was really depressing. It was devastating. It was horrible. Had I been able to look at the situation, realize there's a timeline, focus on that, stay fixated, not fixated, but stay on that target, and made every decision to make sure that I was in the right spot at the right time, when this thing was over, I would be so much better off right now. I know I've said that before, but some of the mistake decisions I've made have made it to where it's still harder for me now. That's what you have to look. If you were early on this, say, okay, this sucks, which it does. But if you're looking at 10 years, you're like, okay, in 10 years, whatever. Don't look at it like, oh my God, I'm going to be 40, or I'm going to be 30, or I'm going to be, 65, whatever. Just say, okay, put my head down, stay focused, and keep moving forward. What you'll realize is once you start having a goal and you're making progress towards it, your emotional state will start to increase. You'll start to feel better. The crap that the ex is doing is going to be less effective to get under your skin, and you're going to get to your goal a lot faster. I wish that somebody could have got that message to me 9 years ago. Had I been able to start this out with the right mindset right from the beginning, I would have been in a much better spot. I'm okay, right? And see, that kind of comes back to this thing where you could also look at it and say, damn it, I made all these mistakes. I've totally screwed my life up. I could have a brand new truck right now, but now I can't because, blah, blah, blah. Don't do that to yourself. Take a breath, say, okay, how do I get to where I need to go? If all I have to do is tread water, and that's what I started to do for a while. It's like, all right, I can't pay my bills down. I can't get ahead on my credit cards. I can't pay extra. I'm just going to have to pay the minimums, and I'm going to have to do that actually, I was planning on getting to the point where I could get past that when my last child dropped off. But as you guys know, my rent went up, and that buffer that I had got obliterated by that. And that was tough. That was tough at that time too, because I felt like another kick in the head. But I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm putting my head down. I'll still pay minimums. I'll just tread water. I did do some consolidation loans to try to give me a time frame so that when I got to that point, some things would be paid off. And right now I'm in a situation, barring any other catastrophe, like end times, like it's what feels like what we're going through right now, I'll be okay. In 4 years, it'll be like almost winning the lottery. I'll have all the kids done. I'll have, I don't know if you can see it, I'll have my car paid off. I'll have a couple of consolidation loans paid off. I'll still have credit card debt and stuff, but I'll be in a much better situation. I hope that makes sense. I hope that you get my point. If you don't, or, I tell you what, give me a summary of what you think that the point of this is. I mean, in my mind, what I'm trying to say is don't let the catastrophe of today overwhelm you. Don't let the unfairness completely derail you and eliminate your ability to find any joy or happiness. Come up with your own plan to deal with how you can move forward and regain your life and get everything back under control. Anyways, I hope you appreciated or enjoyed my latest talking in the garage on the back of the truck video. It's weird. Again, hope you're doing okay. And I will chat with you on the next video. I tell you what, let me back up for a second. If you have some topics that you would like me to cover for those folks that are still here, put it in the comments below so I can know, or I have an idea what specific issues you guys are trying to deal with, and maybe I can tailor a thought or a message on that. And then on that, I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.